Back to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another installment of our Before the Snap series. And if you don't know what Before the Snap series is and you're here watching, we're super excited to have you as a first time guest. What you're going to be in store for today is you're going to learn a little bit about what it takes to have a career in and around the NFL, how to get there, how to get your foot in the door, some tips and tricks from somebody who's currently working in the game, in and around the game of football, on how she got to where she is today. So we are super excited to hear from our special guest to talk about her career both on and off the football field, and how she got to the position she is in today and some of the great things she's doing with her career. If you've tuned in with us before, obviously you know you're in store for another excellent program. Before we get started, though, however, as always, my name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth Education and Leadership Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which make our Hall 378 Hall of Famers great football players, great football minds, but it made them great people as well. And these values can truly make you a great student and great employee of any organization that you either currently working in or might end up working for down the road. Before we get started today, some thank yous I'd like to pass out. I want to thank all of our educators, professors, administrators, counselors who pass this program out to their students today for them to tune in. They're so thankful for you for allowing us to be a small part of your students' learning experience. And then we have to thank the students today. You know, this program is here for you, students, to start your networking journey, to ask questions you may want to know the answers to about working in sports. This is why we have the program here. It's all for our students to learn about what it takes to have a career in sports. So if you are watching us today, first and foremost, let us know where you're watching from. Go ahead in the live chat we have on YouTube right now. Let us know your name and the college or university you attend. We want to see how many great colleges and universities we can have represented here today. And how today's going to go, if you have a question, you have the opportunity to ask it. All you have to do is in the live chat is go ahead and type your question. Let us know who you are, what school you go to, and we'll do our best to make that question as part of the program. We'll constantly be reminding our students throughout the program today as well to make sure you get your questions submitted. The earlier you submit it, the more the likelihood that we're going to be able to ask it throughout the program. So students, make sure you get those questions in. And then lastly, we have to thank our special guest today, Ms. Dajah Stallings. Dajah is a native of Durham, North Carolina, and is a dedicated professional currently serving as the Community Engagement and Legends Coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Proud graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Dajah furthered her education with a master's in sport industry management from Georgetown University. Now entering her second season with the Seahawks, she plays a crucial role in fostering meaningful interactions between the team, its legends, and the community. Her work involves creating opportunities for players and alumni to engage with fans and support local initiatives, reflecting her strong commitment to community service and player relations. So, without further ado, we are super happy and excited to welcome Dajah Stallings to Before the Snap. Dajah, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jake. I'm truly humbled to be here, open to all the questions.
We are super excited to have you here, as always, with all of our guests, um, and cannot wait to hear all about your career on and off the field. So, first and foremost, you know, we obviously like to start right through your bio a little bit, kind of talked a little bit about what you do, but want to dive in a little bit further. So, can you just tell us the kind of that 10,000-foot view, some things you do? What's a day-to-day work day look like for you? What are some of the things you're in charge of with your job there in Seattle?
Absolutely. So, quite honestly, no 2 days look the same, and that's probably my favorite part of my job. However, generally, I I love to say that I babysit grown men all day, but I essentially just support them with everything that they need off the field. As soon as they take that helmet off, I am right there for them as a resource and also I support our former players, so helping them with their business endeavors, with any community engagement things that they want to do, their foundations, just really supporting them, giving them all the resources that they need, helping to plan different events that cater to them and support them in their transition out of the league and into real life. And then on the community side, I support all of our pillars and just ensuring that they have all the resources that they need, engage our current and former players in those community activations throughout the city of Seattle.
Not only you have the unique role of seeing the current impact of the current players, your Kenneth Walkers, your Geno Smiths, your DK Metcalfs on the team, but then you have the Steve Largents of the world, the Matt Hasselbecks, these guys who were a mainstay in Seattle and made a huge impact on the team. And now they're gone, they're doing their own thing, but they're still such an important piece to that Seattle organization. So for you to see that balance, so your working with these legends and the team can touch the life of a 6-year old or an 86-year old. To see that wide range of people you have to work with on a daily basis, what is that like for you, and how is that so rewarding um, for you in your career?
Absolutely. So I discovered at a very, very early age that I am always passionate about helping people to realize who they are outside of, their sport, their profession, just helping people to discover their identity and continue to grow. And this provides the perfect opportunity to do so, starting with them on the team, just helping them to realize that they're more than an athlete and they have so much more potential than just what they can do on the field, and that they're prepared for the day when the buzzer stops, because that's the only thing that's guaranteed in this industry is you will have to put the cleats up. And so essentially just building those relationships, getting to know them, watching them transition and grow, not only while they're with the team, but off the team. My first weekend here was actually Legends Weekend, where we bring back all of our former players. We host them for a weekend full of events. We host them for our first home game and just really allow them to continue to engage with each other and with the organization, and remind them that we are here as a resource for them for the rest of their life, not just while they're on the team. And just having that constant interaction, that constant engagement, knowing that they can depend on us as a department to support them through whatever they need in their life, that is the most fulfilling thing for me.
The last question I have before we throw it out to get to some of our student questions is, a lot of times we especially, in this program, we're talking to people who work in and around the NFL. They got one job, one title, one kind of path that they're working on. Yours is unique because not only are you working with the legends and you're working with the community as well. I know there's got to be a ton of crossover, like we talked about a little bit at the beginning, but for somebody, from my standpoint, looking at your job and your job title, to me, that looks like it's two separate jobs. So can explain to somebody like me why it's not two separate jobs, but how you have to be able to balance kind of two separate mindsets when you're coming to work every day.
That is a wonderful, wonderful question. And the best way to explain it is I serve as a liaison and I bridge the gap between the community and the football side of things. So for most people, they might know the football ops side, what happens on the field, coaches, sports staff, nutritionists, and all that kind of stuff. But the business side um, sometimes goes unnoticed and is very undersupported in a certain sense. So I have a unique opportunity to bridge the gap between the two and kind of mitigate any, miscommunication, just make sure that everybody is able to work together and just provide that unique opportunity to engage our players with our business side and with our community.
Mentioned a super important thing there, communication. And I think in any obviously role that you have, communication is super important. Specifically one where you're having, like you said, bridge the gap between so many people, the football side and the business slash community side. So it sounds like a super interesting job. I know our team here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, our Hall of Famer relations team, who work with all of our Hall of Famers. They've got really they're all great at what they do. They all work super super well with all of our Hall of Famers, and I can only imagine that goes the same for all the staff there in Seattle working with your legends and the vast majority of players that come through in Seattle. So I've got all these questions I can ask you, but that's not why we're here today. Like we said at the beginning, we are here to get questions from our students. So I'm going to throw it over to Nathan Martin, the Youth Education Leadership Coordinator here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who's got some live questions coming in, as well as some questions from some students who submitted them ahead of time. So Nathan, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Jake and Dajah. Thank you again for being on the program with us today. As Jake said, we're going to go straight to the YouTube questions that have been submitted already by our students. And I want to take this moment just to continue to encourage our students. Let us know where you're watching from, which school you attend, or where you recently graduated from, and submit questions. We want to hear from you. Dajah wants to hear from you. And with that, we're going to go to Carly. She submitted a question here, Dajah, and she wants to know what has been your favorite off the field community engagement event that you've got to be a part of?
Great question. My favorite one. Mm.
we got that dramatic pause. She's like really, really thinking through, trying to come up with the favorite moment here.
It sounds so cliche, but I can't pick just one because it's been a phenomenal experience since I've been here. I think the one that probably stands out, my second week here, we had our 10-year Super Bowl reunion.
Mm,
Literally my second week here, we brought back our one and only Super Bowl team
yeah.
back, and we hosted them for a weekend full of events, and that just set the bar so high. And I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to be in Seattle. I just remember just having a
Yeah.
ball, and all of our guys were just super humble. And I mean, these are the Cam Chancellors, the Jermaine Curses of the world, and they were just so humble, down to earth, and welcomed me with open arms as I was their new Legends coordinator coming in, right? And I just remember how engaged they were with each other, how supportive they were of each other, even 10 years later. And I just remember thinking, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is these are the legends that I want to support, and whatever they need, I'm here for them.
That's really special that you got to experience that so quickly, in your role there with Seattle. And, hopefully you'll get to be a part of a team that wins another Super Bowl in Seattle and you get to see it from that side of things, being on staff, when that happens. So we'll cross our fingers there for you, in hopes that Seattle can get back, to getting their hands on the Lombardi trophy. But another question here from a student. This is from Daniela. Um, if you can kind of walk us through, maybe at a high level, or if you want to get real in the weeds and detailed about it, Daniela wants to know, how did you get your start in your career, and what led you to achieve your current title, your current role in Seattle?
I have a very interesting testimony, and I'm always very transparent with my story. My freshman year at UNC Chapel Hill, I ended with a 1.7 GPA, and I was offered two options: go home indefinitely or go to summer school. And so I ended up going to summer school, and I landed in the Intro to Sport Administration class, and it literally changed my life. My professor there introduced me to different opportunities on campus, to volunteer with our football team, with our basketball team, just kind of bounce around different departments and figure out my niche. And that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. There, I found student athlete development, and that's where I really discovered my passion for helping student athletes off the field discover who they are and prepare them for that transition, that next step. And so from there, that flourished into my opportunity with the NFLPA and player affairs, doing the same thing, but on the pro level. And then even while I was at the NFLPA, I realized like there was still something missing. I didn't quite feel fulfilled, and I was still searching for that community aspect, really giving back to the community, different ways that I can engage and support youth, you know, social justice initiatives. I really wanted to integrate the two. And then I just kept telling people that I wanted to blend my passion for player engagement and community engagement. Lo and behold, this position was created and was sent to me because I had been telling so many people this is what I want to do. And so, with that, I would just encourage you to explore all your options, really hone in on what you're passionate about and what would bring you the most fulfillment, and create your own job position. I literally wrote out what I wanted to do, and then it was presented to me. So anything is possible.
That's
Hope that
so
answers your
beautiful. That's so beautiful, and I appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable and transparent and tell the students, like, hey, I wasn't that 4.0 student, right? Like, they presented me with the option of basically like, you're not cut out for college, or you got to do summer school, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna stick to it. I'm gonna do the summer school thing, and you have the sport administration class, and just how that changed your whole trajectory. I mean, that's amazing. I was kind of getting chills like listening to it. I love that story, that testimony, and hopefully our students. Well, we don't hope they can relate to the low GPA, but maybe they do, right? And maybe they can learn from that experience.
It
But
builds character.
yeah, so we do encourage our students to do well in the classroom, but everyone's got their own story. Everyone's got, their own testimony, and the fact that that's yours, and you will be able to impact people that will be able to relate to that. And I appreciate you sharing that, and hopefully our students can learn from that. I want to go on one more question from our students, and then we'll send it back to Jake. We'll kind of volley back and forth here. This question is, we're going to kind of just see kind of your network there with Seattle, because this is from a student named Patrick. And Patrick isn't necessarily looking in the community player engagement world, but wants to know, what type of opportunities have you seen, Dajah, maybe with some coworkers, working inside the NFL, media related careers, kind of maybe some job titles or maybe some responsibilities that you've seen some of your coworkers have if there's a student that wants to go into the media side of things in the NFL?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So that is not my expertise. I
Yeah,
know broadcasting
yeah.
and I know we have a wonderful production team.
Hmm.
However, please connect with me on LinkedIn and I will connect you with our media team and they will be able to give you the information that you're looking for. I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction.
No, I appreciate that too, and I appreciate how you segue for me there because we want to encourage the students. Connect with Deja on LinkedIn. She's been so kind to share that with us. We posted the link there on YouTube, so you can click right to it. It'll take you to her page. You can get connected. If we don't get to your question today, shoot her the question. Be like, hey, I was watching before the snap. I didn't get my question asked, or they didn't have enough time to get to mine. She's willing to talk to you guys. So if it's media related, she'll get you connected to the right people. So thank you for doing that, Deja. I'm going to throw it back to Jake, though, for some more questions here and before the snap.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Thanks, Stacia, for all those great answers. And students, thank you for all the awesome questions that you submitted. We got time for more. So if you got some questions, you're watching us right now, maybe you just tuned in, go ahead and submit your questions into the live chat there, and we'll do our best to make it part of the program. And Deja, I want to talk a little bit about, you said you're in your second year with the Seahawks. So obviously, and it's something that I think everybody goes through, there's always an opportunity to learn more. I think there's a narrative out there that, once you get your full-time job, all right, I'm good. I don't got to learn anymore. I don't got to learn any new things. I've got my job. I'm good to go. And personally, I think that's, couldn't be further from the truth. So what are some things that you do to make sure you're on the top of your game and you're constantly learning to make yourself the best professional you can be?
I ask all the questions and I'm constantly observing. Like, don't ever get to a place, like, always remain humble. That is, always remain humble and always be a sponge. Even when you're a chief, there's always something to learn. Even when you're the president of an organization, there's always room to learn and grow. The moment you get complacent is the moment that you fail. So just always continue to grow, always continue to be open to feedback and constructive criticism to help you to grow and learn and prepare you for that next level. So I ask all the questions.
I'll be honest, I am the exact same way. And there was a cool thing, not to sidebar off of everything. Um, but I realized, I don't ask questions because I don't like the idea. I ask questions because that's how I understand things, and I need to ask the questions to let it process more and more. So for somebody that may be scared to ask those questions, why is it so important for them to do that? And some people learn a different way. Some people are, your note takers. They have to sit and process it. People are like us that we have to ask the questions. So for somebody who's hasn't really found the best way that they learn, why would you be a proponent of somebody to say, hey, don't be afraid, ask questions because that's a great way to learn.
I think that when you ask questions, it not only helps you to find the answer that you're looking for, but it also um, triggers something in the people that you're asking the question to think like, oh, they're actually interested and want to grow. They want to learn. And then that encourages people to want to help you more to the point where you don't even have to ask questions. They're like, you know what? I think Deja would benefit from knowing this information because she always asks questions or she's curious and she's open to learning. So once you ask the question, or if you're, not as vocal, not as social, do research. Google is a great tool. I use Google all the time, so just use the resources at your disposal. That's what I say. If you don't feel comfortable asking questions, go on Google or just pay attention. Observe the people that are doing the things that you want to do or what you're trying to learn how to do, and you'll find your answer.
Awesome. I think that's a great tool. We joke about, it's on Google. It probably is. So it is important, if you don't know the answer, go out and find it because there's always a way for you to learn. We talked about this sport that we work in around the NFL, around the sport of football, and obviously there's a lot of work that goes into it. But you sit there and think that there's some pretty cool moments that you could be a part of. So like the question we love to ask here is, end of your career, you're kicked back in the lazy boy, grandkids are coming up saying, what was the coolest thing you ever got to do? So far in your career, what would you say is the coolest moment that you have ever gotten to be a part of that kind of made you take a step back or maybe kind of look over it as a 10,000-foot view and, can't go, wow, I can't believe I was there for that.
I don't know if I've had my Super Bowl moment yet.
That's a
That's
good way.
a
That's a good thing to call it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had my Super Bowl moment yet. And um I mean, I've had three internships, just now entering my full-time role. I feel like I'm just getting started. Every every team has had a fantastic moment where I'm like, wow, I really did that. And I think it was just really humbling to know like I sought out to do something and I was able to accomplish it and complete it. I never thought I would be able to create my own role, and here I am in it. So I would say currently my role is my Super Bowl moment.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, here's to hoping that that Super Bowl moment does come for you. And from the little that I know about you and what we've heard from you so far, I think that that's not very far away for you for sure. For all everybody listening, obviously we talked a little bit about who we are at the Pro Football Hall of Fame at the beginning, and we mentioned, it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, all the Hall of Famers and NFL legends, those legends that Dajah works with, that made the game what it is today. But that second part there is, we want to promote its history. Our core, we are a museum. So what do? We protect the legacy, the history of the game of American football. So we thought, what better way to showcase that than to actually send it out live to our museum to show a little bit of what we do here in Canton, Ohio. So right now, I'm going to send it out live to our Hall of Fame gallery, the coolest part of our museum, to our teammate Katie, who's out there, and he's going to talk a little bit about the room that she's in. And then Deja, I believe she has a question for you as well. So Katie, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thanks, Jake. So, welcome to the Pro Football Hall of Fame Gallery. This is a space where these iconic busts are displayed for football fans to look at when they come here and visit us here in Canton, Ohio. It's really a special place, and it's one of my favorite places in the whole museum. This is a spot where we have the 378 bronze busts, the greatest players to ever play football, and this is where we honor them. So, the Seattle Seahawks actually have 15 of these bronze busts. Steve Hutchinson is behind me here, that they have been a part of the franchise's amazing history. Whether it was the late great Cortez Kennedy sacking quarterbacks, Steve Largent in his pass catching highlights, or Warren Moon leading the high flying offenses in the Old Kingdom, the Seahawks seem to have always had some legends in this game. Deja, now I said legends in this game, and your job title is Community Engagement and Legends Coordinator. So my question for you is, what is the best part of getting to work with some of the Seahawks legends and keeping them engaged within the Seattle community?
The best part, and I say this all the time, our legends are so humble. I mean, they are the Steve Largents, the Cortez Kennedys, the Walter Jones. They all are in the Hall of Fame, and you would never know it. They don't walk around with their gold jackets. They are people, and they are so humble, and they are so inspiring and so supportive, and that encourages me. I was already going to support them anyway, but I'm more inclined to do so because of they are just great people at their core, and I just really want to do them justice in promoting the fact that they are more than just their gold jackets, more than just what they were able to do on the field. They are people with families and passions and interests and businesses, and they're just so awesome off the field and the things that they have been able to accomplish. I want to be able to amplify that and support them in that.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with the Hall of Famers we work with here, and the players, the Hall of Famers are very humble, but even their families, which you highlighted a little bit too, which is pretty cool to see. So, well, thank you for joining us, Deja, and back to you, Jake.
Thank you so much, Katie. I want to talk a little bit about the idea, working with legends. And obviously, if there's a community event, if there's a big meeting, to have a legend, or for us, a Hall of Famer there, that's a big deal. So you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty details, but can you kind of walk us through what the process is like? I'm a company, I got a big sales conference, and I want a Seahawks legend to be there. What does that look like for me? And what are some of the things you have to handle on your end to make sure that that appearance, A, can or is going to happen, and B, to make sure it is a success?
Great question. So I wish there was a science to it, but every legend is different. And so a lot of that comes with building relationships, and that is a huge part of this role, is being able to form those relationships and really understand the needs and parameters of each legend. So some legends, they're very simple. They'll do it on a volunteer basis. They're just like, tell me where to be and I'll be there. Other legends, they have different criteria and different price points that they want to serve in or different areas of interest. And so again, I wish there was a science to it and I wish I could say, oh, this is the process. All you do is call them and they show up. No, you have to really get to know each guy and know what makes sense for the appearance. And with that and building the relationships, all it takes is just to pick up the phone and say, hey, I have this awesome opportunity that I know will that interest you based off, X, Y, and Z of things that you shared. Would you be interested? Are you available? And then I would connect them with the organization or the company that is interested in the appearance.
Awesome. So it does sound like there's a little bit of science behind it. But like you said, everybody's going to be different with different requests. And, like obviously you have some legends who are super interested in one thing and maybe not so much the others. So then you kind of have to go through your Rolodex of, which legend fits this opportunity the best, which I'm sure is rewarding as well, knowing, which legends like which different things. Looking at your career, you get to work with legends of the game, some of the best football players of all time, whether it was in the Seattle organization or even in the NFL's history. Obviously you talked about those 15, Katie mentioned those 15 Hall of Famers. And you get to work in the community, so you get to see the impact that they have. Those two things combined, what has been those life lessons you see the game of football have an impact outside of the game? Whether it's on the legends themselves, what life lessons are they taking away? You as an employee, or what happens in the community, those families, those people? What are those life lessons that the game of football itself can teach those who play it, coach it, watch it on TV, maybe attend an event? What are those life lessons you think that can be pulled out of the game of football?
The two things that I hear the most from our guys is to just remain competitive throughout your entire life, not just when you're on the field, but continually competing against yourself to be better than you were the previous day. And then two, to maximize every opportunity. Our Super Bowl guys talk about all the time how they leverage that opportunity to propel them for life after the game. They leveraged the momentum from that moment. They leveraged, the money they made from that moment and invested it in their future. And so just again, I would maximize every opportunity and always compete to be better than you were the previous day.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to kind of encapsulate the game of football. And those things you talked about, you can make you a great family member, a great parent, a great roommate, a great employee. So it's so awesome to see that how these values, these life lessons of the game can transcend, into normal everyday life. I know we got some more student questions rolling in, so I'm gonna throw it back to Nathan Martin, our youth education leadership coordinator here at the Hall of Fame, for some more student questions. Nathan, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Jake and Deja. This is actually a good question, and I like it because I feel like my answer would be different than yours. Just knowing a little bit about your career path. Uh, you mentioned you were at UNC, and then you had to move across the country. Now you're in Seattle. I mean, we're talking coast to coast. Was that hard for you? Is that something like you felt like you had to do to work in sports? Oftentimes they talk about you have to be willing to move to work in sports. Is that something you would advise students? Kind of what are your thoughts on that whole thing and your personal experience doing it?
Oh, yes. So in 2023, I moved across the country twice, went from DC to Cleveland, then Cleveland to Seattle. So that was extremely difficult, full transparency. It happened in less than a year, both moves. And the adjustment process was rough. It was rough. However, a year later, I look back on that and I wouldn't change it for the world. So my
Mm,
answer would be yes. I would encourage you to just remain open-minded, but do your research beforehand. I wouldn't have come to this opportunity if I didn't believe it was the best move for my career at this time. So definitely do your research, interview your interviewer, know who, your leadership is, what kind of organization and culture that the organization has. Like, make sure that it fits and aligns with who you are and where you're trying to go. Those are the opportunities that I would encourage you to take the leap of faith on.
yeah, I like your advice there about researching the organization that you're looking to potentially join. And, if you're able to, even researching and learning about the people that's going to be interviewing you, that can help you interview better if you know a little bit about them, but also it can give you a little bit of information. Like if that's the person you're going to be working with day to day, you want to enjoy the people you work with, because that makes your job and your career a lot more fulfilling and a lot more fun. So great advice for our students. Hopefully they're jotting down notes and remembering some of this. Another question here from a student from YouTube. What skills do you believe are essential for someone looking to work in community engagement, specifically in the sports world?
Building relationships. I will nail that till the day I die. Building relationships. I'm not truly a fan of the word networking because it
Mm.
feels very transactional, but building authentic, genuine relationships will have you to really excel in this field because you're working with people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities. I mean, that are totally different, polar opposite from you. And as long as you can see that they're a human on the other side of that, and can build a relationship from that, you will be successful in this role.
So let me follow up that because you mentioned you personally don't love the word networking. You understand why it's out there, I'm sure, and why people say it, but the transactional side of things. So you like to emphasize relationship over, that cliche of networking. Um, what do you think's that good first step, or how does somebody make sure it's more of a relationship that they're forming and not just that transactional um, interaction they have sometimes that networking can become? What's that first step you would advise them to take?
Absolutely. Great question. Remove all expectations. Do not go into a conversation or trying to start a relationship with somebody expecting them or hoping that they help you to find a job or expecting
Mm,
them to do something for you. Go into it with the intention of really getting to know that person and understanding their journey and maybe how they can provide value for you. And that could just be y'all have conversations every once in a while. You vent to them, you get advice from them, but they're not necessarily the person that helps you to that next step. So just really understand the dynamic of your relationship with that person and get to know them for them, not what they can do for you.
I love
That helps keep it authentic and genuine.
I like that, tearing away those expectations. So often students that do take that leap of faith and try to network, they're doing it because they want that job. And that can cloud the intent that they should have, that they need to be more genuine and authentic with the relationship piece. Do you have an example, or maybe you didn't do it and you're learning now as you get farther into your career of how you did that? Is it just face to face? Did you ever have to engage over something like LinkedIn? Was it emails that led to Zoom calls? What did that look like for you, kind of building those relationships with people in the sports industry?
Absolutely. So pre-pandemic, it was very face to face. I believe in, talking to somebody face to face, looking them in their eyes, and then also giving them a handwritten note after, thanking them for their time. However,
Sorry not to interrupt. I love the
no,
handwritten note. Like Jake and I are big advocates of that. So I'm glad that Deja's on board with us with that. So yeah, go ahead. Handwritten notes. We love them.
absolutely. I believe my mom is still on the call. She's the one that taught me that, and I will never let that die. I will always give a handwritten note. In post-pandemic, it was honestly a lot easier because everybody's, at home on their computer. They have access to LinkedIn, Zoom. So I maximized that opportunity. I reached out to everybody on LinkedIn. Hey, just want to get to know you. Can I get 5, 15 minutes of your time? I want to hear more about your journey, learn more about what you do. Really simple, really short and sweet. Some people respond, some people don't. You can't take it personally. Everybody's busy, right? Maximize that. I definitely maximize that opportunity. Got to know people via Zoom, and then this job was sent to me. So just really, really get to know people genuinely and tell people what you want to do, not necessarily asking them to do something for you.
Yeah, and I think what I've seen in my experience, and I'm sure you would probably echo this, is when you're asking for just 10 or 15 minutes, a lot of people, yes, they're busy, but if it's someone that seems like they're genuinely just want to hear a little bit about their career, most people like talking about themselves. So they'll like, oh yeah, I'll talk to the student, maybe give them, that great piece of advice that someone told me once. Like they're willing to talk to you and hear from you, and you never know where that can lead. And for you, it led you across the country, and it led you to a job that you love and you're passionate about. So definitely would encourage students with the tools like LinkedIn and just being able to find staff directories and stuff online so easily. Go ahead and start not just building your network, but building those relationships that hopefully could lead to maybe one day having a job that you're passionate about the same way that Dajah is. I do want to follow up though, because we've been talking about relationships, and we got this great question from a student named Kennedy from Southeastern Louisiana University. And Kennedy wants to know, Dajah, did you have a mentor during your career journey? How did they help you? How would you recommend to a student to maybe find a mentor? So first, speak personally about maybe a mentor or two that you had, and then how would you recommend students find a good mentor?
Absolutely. So I had a couple, and I had them for different reasons. So my academic advisor, Dexter Robinson at UNC, I would consider him a mentor, and he helped me to navigate my academic journey and just really finding my niche starting out in sports. And then I had another mentor, Kyra Kendrick. She was my supervisor at UNC in the football recruiting department. And she helped me to navigate the industry as a Black woman. And I emphasize that, and that's very important. Being a double minority in a white male dominated industry, you want to find people that look like you and are doing what you want to do to help you, one, build that comfortability in a very uncomfortable situation, and then be able to give you firsthand advice on experiences that they had that you may experience and help to prepare you for that. So when finding a mentor, it's almost like finding a therapist or a partner. You want to find somebody that compliments you and compliments you in a way of like, ketchup and hot dog, not like compliments you, gives you compliments, but somebody that, it makes sense. They align with you, align with your values and what you're looking for. That way they can give you the proper guidance in the right direction.
Yeah, and I would add, and I hope I'm not, speaking out of turn, but like I think sometimes when people are looking for mentors, we feel like, yeah, I have to find the person that has the job that I want. They need to be my mentor. And yeah, that can be nice sometimes, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the person that has the same job that you want someday. Like find someone that loves their job, that like, is a great with their family, a great, sibling or wife or husband or whatever. Like, because those are probably things you want too. And like the career piece, like they'll provide good advice regardless if they're sitting in the chair or have the job title that you want someday. So I think sometimes we pigeonhole who our mentor has to be, when instead it could just be someone that like, no, they're just a great human being that cares about me and they compliment me in that way. And they have maybe some more years on them, so they can provide great advice that way. So that's just another piece I would add with that. I don't know if you want to chime in on that with Deja, anything that I missed there.
I just more or less want to add to that and just consider that take everyone's advice with a grain of salt, but always make your own decisions.
Amen.
I used to have different informational interviews with people and they would give contradictory advice. And I'm like,
Hmm.
well, whose advice do I take? Right. With that, you just take everything in, you absorb it all, and then you make your own decision with your own discernment based off the information that you've received. That would just be my overarching advice there.
I, I'm glad you added that because as someone who sat in, I don't know, Jake probably knows the number. We've probably done close to 100 of these before the SNAP programs and heard different advice. And at times there's contradictory advice. Not everyone that we've had has said the same exact thing. But if as someone who sat through, you kind of get an overwhelming sense like, oh, that works for most people, or that works for this field versus another field. And like you said, you got to use the discernment and hopefully have you a mentor that you can talk to and work through those different things. Um, we got one more question here from our students, and then I'll send it back to Jake to wrap things up. But this is a great one, I think, to finish with. This is from Charity. Charity wants to know, or actually says, "Hi, Deja. What advice would you give specifically for women who are trying to break through into the NFL workforce?"
Mm, what advice would I give to women? I wish that was a little bit more specific. Um, because it's so much that you need to know as a woman in this industry, but always just keep your head held high and believe that you deserve to be in that space. If you go in with that mindset, you'll kill it no matter what, department you go into, what field, whatever you want to do, you'll be able to kill it knowing that you deserve to be in that space and don't let anybody tell you that you don't deserve to be there.
That's such great advice. Thank you so much for being thoughtful in that response. Hopefully, the young ladies that are watching this, today or in the future can latch onto that and really uh, just appreciate that advice. Thank you, Dajah, for that. And really, I want to thank you for being a part of the program on behalf of myself and the students that have been watching. We thank you for your insight, your advice. Again, I want to encourage the students that if we didn't get to your question today, connect with Dajah on LinkedIn, send your question. Even if we did get to your question today, still connect with her, tell her you saw her on Before the Snap. Start to form that relationship. Don't make it some type of transactional thing. She's not going to hand out jobs to everybody just because you connect with her on LinkedIn. Try to form that genuine relationship. But again, Dajah, thank you on behalf of myself and the students for being on Before the Snap. We're going to send it back over to Jake to kind of wrap things up today.
Thank you, Nathan. Yes, we are going to start to wrap things up. Dajah, got two things we're going to do. We got one final question. We'll ask you after this part. We're going to do some rapid fire questions. We got 7 rapid fire questions. So, first thing that comes to your mind, are you ready?
Got it.
All right, number 1, LinkedIn, great way to network or build relationships, or just another social media app?
Build relationships.
GPA on a resume, leave it on or keep it off?
Keep it off. Nobody wants to see the 1.7.
Social media accounts, public or private?
Public. Don't post anything that you don't want anybody to see.
Jeans at work, all day, every day, never, or only casual Fridays?
Sports is a little different. I have on jeans right now.
Coin toss, heads or tails?
Heads.
All right, you score a touchdown. What's your go-to touchdown celebration?
Gritty.
That's a very popular answer. And then last one, this is a brand new question for this year. If you could describe your job as a flavor of ice cream, what flavor of ice cream is your job?
Rainbow.
Rainbow sherbet. All right. I'm going to take it. It's a little bit of a lot.
Absolutely. Something new every day. Just add it to the
Awesome.
flavor.
Awesome. Well, Dajah, thank you so much for being here today, taking time out of your busy schedule to answer questions from Nathan and I and Katie, as well as all of our students who tuned in. Last question I have for you is, obviously there's been a lot of great information throughout the program today, and we always like to sum it up is, what's that one parting thought that you want everybody to take away from today? If they can only remember one thing, whether they're watching this now, 6 months, a year from now, and Nathan, this is episode 99, so we're almost at episode 100. What's that one thing you want them to take away from the day if it's the only thing that they can remember?
Everything works out. Period. End of sentence. That's
I
all I
love
got.
it. I love it. All right, with that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame series Before the Snap today, featuring Dajah Stallings, the Community Engagement and Legends Coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Again, Dajah, thank you so much for being part of the program, giving time out of your busy schedule to speak with us and all the students today.
Thank you for having me.
As always, make sure you're tuned into everything we're doing here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, whatever else you got to do on social media to all of our channels. See all the great stuff we're going to have coming out. We just narrowed down our modern list of finalists for the class of 2025, so make sure you get on and check that out. Make sure you're following along with all the Seahawks this year. Make sure check in what they're doing with their team and their community, all the cool things they're doing with their legends. For everybody watching and tuned in today, we do have a program on October 31st. We got a Halloween program. It's going to be next week. It's going to be with Gabe Christius, who's a team photographer for the Denver Broncos. So, going to learn a little bit about what the photography side of the game of football and the NFL looks like. So, as always, Dajah, thank you so much. We have a saying here at the Hall of Fame is we always tell our Hall of Famers, thank you so much for that you did for the game of football and everything you do for the Hall of Fame. And I want to echo that sentiment to you. You might not know it, but you're definitely leaving an impact on the game and those who are surrounded by it. So thank you for everything you have done for the game and the Seattle community and everything you're going to do. Plus, a big thank you from us here at the Hall of Fame for being a part of the program today.
Again, thank you so much for having me. Truly humbled.
To everybody who tuned in, thank you so much. We hope to see you next week. Bye, everybody.